All right, folks. Good morning. Welcome in. It is House Edge Live with John from Casino Gaming Central. And yeah, I saw the note there in chat and realized at that moment that I had scheduled the show for 1:30 this afternoon instead of 7:30 this morning. When I create the shows on the weekends, I basically go to YouTube and I schedule everything. And I just kind of copy and paste each one every day, and it always defaults to the current time that I'm sitting at my desk, right? Um, and so I just didn't change today. So anyway, yeah, there we go. Whoops. So I think we'll have a late arriving crowd today because a lot of people probably didn't get the notification until like 5 minutes ago when I made that change. But anyway, welcome in. Good morning, everybody. Got some familiar faces out there. Got Randall Hill, got Lou. Good job to the crew. I don't know if you saw yesterday's show, but I shouted it out. The AC crew kicked butt. Sounds like you put that big announcement out there. So super cool when you guys can make some dust bunnies like that. Pretty awesome stuff. Anyway, let's get to it here. We're going to talk about one of my favorite topics today, which is trending. I know that I've created kind of this hot button buzz around that word for whatever reason. With a couple years ago, went off on a little rant about it. Try and give some clarity today and give you some food for thought, I hope. But I will tell you this. The casinos love the idea of trending. They think trending is the greatest thing in the world. They love trending so much, they put up signs to show you what the trends are. They show you just how great the baccarat table and the roulette table are doing because they know that you'll believe it, right? They exist to find all the ways they can to take all your money. That's one of them, right? Leaning into the gambler's fallacy that what's about to happen is known, right? They love that. And it's just another tool they use to take everything you have. And we're going to talk more about that here in the buzz this morning. But yeah, that's a real thing. And I think that when I try and give these reality check shows like today, and actually most of the ABC series, it's important to realize the reasons why these shows, these topics are important. And you can think what you want to about certain things. But the truth of the matter is the casino already has thought about them. And trust me, if you're seeing it out there, in the world, it ain't good for you. And that's just the way that works. All right. So what do you do? What's our fight plan? Our fight plan is the bridge, right? It's one of the things we can do. Whoops, I went the wrong direction there. Let's go here. One of the fight plans we have is the bridge, right? Understanding the ways that our bankroll works, the way that we view risk, the way that we identify opportunity, identify a trend potentially, right? Have discipline, set goals, keep your emotions in check, right? You start getting emotionally invested in things at a casino, boy, that's when it gets ugly, man. That's when they really kind of lean in and assert themselves. So let's take these tools that we've got that we're building together and find ways to kind of trudge forward in it. So and maybe come out ahead, or at least not behind as not as behind as you could be. Let's say that. All right. Quick schedule reminder for everybody. We know we have Big Joe from Craftsmaster Journey every day at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. The Shooters Tournament, I'm going to have George on, actually, and we'll talk to George about the tournament, what the schedule's like, how it's going to work, give you some more information there. I may even have Ed on, if I can get him on, to talk through the Brownwater Bash and what Casino Tears has been up to. Casino Tears is doing a bunch of, seminars and that kind of thing. They're doing Biloxi seminars and Vegas seminars. They have a lot going on there. So I may have him on one of these days. We'll talk through it here in the schedule section. Just a quick 5 minutes with Ed and just kind of get a sense of what their plans are. So you'll have a chance to get your calendars right. I know we got the Brownwater Bash coming. We got their seminars coming. Lots of things happening. So this screen's going to get busy, I think, here at some point. So, okay. What's the buzz for today? So I was thinking about this yesterday. As you all know, I'm working through building this app with Casino Quest. I think my camera's got a weird angle to it. That's a little better. Looks like it's pointing down. Working through building this Nexus app with Casino Quest. And a large part of what I do, obviously, is coding. I do a lot of planning for what the app should do and that kind of thing. I spend a lot of time with AI. I spend a lot of time with my coding buddy, Claude. I do a lot of vibe coding, and we've built in the app an AI that learns how you bet. Basically, as you're betting in the games, we transmit the bets back and the cards back and all that, and the dice and everything else back to the engine, and it learns. It learns, well, the trends of the cards, I guess, right? It learns how players bet when conditions happen. It learns what you're doing so that you can go back to it and say, hey, I was playing blackjack in this session. I was doing this strategy and I lost money. How can I make myself better? And it will actually work with you back and forth, which is really cool. To me, that's a fun use of AI. And that might categorize itself as the good, right? Ways to have it help analyze what you're doing, help you build a better strategy, help you tweak your own strategies, right? That's kind of a cool use of AI, I think. Potentially dangerous, right? Because now you're relying on a computer to do your thinking for you versus relying on your brain or your gut in some cases to do your work for you. So there's a little bit of danger there. But AI is also becoming more and more and more a part of the casino. And I want to get your opinion. So hopefully we've got people on both the horizontal and vertical today. I can't tell if we do or not. There's no way for me to know, by the way, if both of these are running. I can't really tell. But in chat, and especially in comments after the fact, let me know your thoughts on what I'm about to say. Because AI is becoming a bigger part of game protection, security, and a bigger part of comps. And what we're seeing is comps not just being awarded on time on device, what they call time on device. If you're at a slot machine or a video poker game and you're sitting there for 4 hours, like my wife, 4 hours at the same machine, right? And you're betting how you're betting, if you're up, down, whatever. It used to just be time on device, right? House edge of the machine is your Theo, right? Your house edge times the resolutions per hour times hours of play times average bet size. That's how they figure out your Theo. That Theo is figured out what your comps are. Well, what if AI got involved in some of that? And it actually analyzed what you were doing, not just how long you were doing it. And slot machines is one thing, but what we're seeing now is these guys, the chips, or the checks as they're really called, have chips inside them, right? Most casinos at the black level and up, every check has a chip in it. Every single one. You may or may not know this. For two reasons. One is for security. So if you leave the casino with checks in your pocket, they know, right? They know that you can't inject fake checks into the games. Like these guys used to, make these in their garages, right? That you can't bring a fake one in because it won't work, right? Even the cashiers have to run the chips now over top of a thing that says if it's a real chip or not. That's technology, by the way, which maybe you guys don't know about. But what if on the table games, blackjack, baccarat, roulette, where your money went and how much of it went where was known by a sensor, right? The tables can have sensors. The cameras can follow your bets too now, right? And AI can determine this guy just went from 25 to 500 on his bet. He's a card counter, right? AI can say when the guy walks by, his first bet was a black, and then he's betting reds all the time. And the pit boss maybe wrote down black chip player for your Theo calculation. In reality, you're betting reds. The AI can know that and reduce your comps as a result. Think about that. For the casino, there's gold in that. There's gold in them Nar Hills, right? They might look at that and say, this guy's getting eggs instead of a steak for their comp based on how they're play. That might be the key to alert the guy on his phone that John is spreading his bets too much. He's probably a counter. Get eyes on him, right? And it doesn't have to be the boss. He can press a button on his phone that alerts the camera crew upstairs that table 9 potential counter. And now they can zoom their cameras in and watch you bet. And while they're watching, of course, they can see the glow of your chips in their computer screens and know where your bets are and how much you're betting. So think about if you were running a casino, you'd love that because your comps are more accurate. You can find the cheaters and all that kind of stuff way better. As a player, now you're under the corporate screw just a little bit more, right? I think it's interesting. When I look at that stuff as the tech nerd that I am, I think, man, that's awesome that we can do that. As the gambler in me, I go, God, those sons of bitches are just going to find more ways to screw me. They're going to find more ways to screw me. What they're going to do also speaking of trends today, they're going to find ways to say, look, the idiot board on the roulette table is showing red, 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 and they can say every player is now going to black. Or they might say over time what they see is when this kind of thing happens, most players tend to do this. Well, guess what's going to happen? Side bets come out. New side bets come out. Like the hot red side bet or some shit like that, where, you know what I mean? Some 20% house edge bet on the roulette table is going to emerge because now they can use AI to determine where your bets are based on conditions. So trending, all these things we talk about on the show, I think are interesting and fun for us to kind of argue about. The reality is casinos AI is going to start taking over. Now, I don't think it's going to take over dealers, but it's going to make the pit bosses' jobs a little easier. They can now manage their people and not manage your bets. So think about that. And again, I want to know in chat and in comments how you feel about this as a player. How do you feel about the intrusion of not just the cameras anymore, but now sensors and computers attached to sensors knowing what you're doing every minute you're doing it? Your actual Theo will be the actual money you bet, the actual number of hands you saw, and the actual house edge of what you experienced. It will not be a guess by some guy or some gal. It's going to be computer driven now. So for what it's worth, it'll be more accurate, but to you, it's going to feel a little less accurate because you're going to want your black chip comp, right? Anyway, that's my thoughts on the buzz. And again, more on this to come. I've got friends who run security teams, and I've got friends in the business now through my connections over at CQ that we can have on and talk about what AI really does. They're excited about it, but they're also scared about it. And I want you to know that too. The casinos also don't want to know. Because think about this. What if the computer flags a player or flags an activity and they don't act on it? Think about that. Right now, a guy misses it on the camera. It's not a big deal. If the computer flags a potential cheat or a potential counter and they're too busy or for whatever reason, they don't act on that thing, there's liability potentially in there too. So now you have the data and you don't act on the data, you're at risk. And the gaming boards might want to inspect the data at some point. So there's lots of levers to pull here with AI. So anyway, I just wanted to bring it up and see what your thoughts were. So tell me how you feel about that. All right, let's get into the real show here. And I want to hit this topic of trending, and I want to know what you think. Is trending real or not? We've had this talk so many times, right? Is trending real or not? And you know my thoughts on it, right? My thoughts on trending are no, it's not real. And I think there's reasons for why I say that. I just don't like the word, right? So if you think about it this way, right? Trending, what it really is to me is it's change or it's something happening with cause. Okay. The word means something's going to continue happening. There's a continuation or momentum, right? In stocks, there's some there. When you think about the stock market, it trends because things happen, right? Because interest rates dropped or because a war started or because whatever happens, a company closed down or AI took 1,000 jobs, right? That causes things to happen. And because there's cause behind it, the effect is whatever's happening is going to continue to happen. Okay. There's there to that, right? That can make a trend really form. But in gambling, there's no there. There's no force. There's no momentum because there's no engine behind it, right? There's nothing pushing it, right? What we call a trend is a pattern without an engine. And that's an important distinction for people to make. I think you want to use the word trend, fine, but it's not real. And that's why I argue against the word so hard, because patterns form. Patterns for sure form, right? Clusters for sure form, but there's nothing behind it that means it's going to keep on going. So the argument against trending becomes this, right? Everything, a dice roll, roulette spin, potentially the cards in a shoe, they're all independent events. There's no memory there, right? Whatever is happening is going to happen. It doesn't matter that we rolled a red or we rolled a 9 or that you rolled a 9 and then I get the dice. It's all gambler's fallacy, right? Betting with or against the trend is equally meaningless in my view. Infinite trials, hundreds of millions of rolls will wash all the streaks out, right? The house edge doesn't care, right? It all comes down to confirmation bias. You think you see what you see, you remember what you saw, and that's how it happens, right? Now, the for case, the trends that are the case to make that trends are real is this. And I'm with you here. You don't play infinite sessions. You're not playing hundreds of millions of rolls. You're playing here. You're playing, on a Wednesday, is it Wednesday? On a Thursday afternoon, you're playing, right? For a short period of time. You don't have this big experience in your session. You have this. And in this, variance is what you experience. Clusters are what you experience. Short runs is what you live in, not the world of the house edge. You don't live in the world of the house edge in the moment. You just don't, right? Trends feel very real. They're not predictive, but they happen. Streaks happen. Clusters form. You just can't forecast it. What I argue against and warn you against is don't try and forecast what's going to happen based on what just happened, right? The real play, though, when this is going on, when you're seeing a bunch of nines come on a craps table or a bunch of reds come on a roulette table, is bet sizing. Bet sizing is where it really happens. Pressing with, quote unquote, house money, or having a good pattern catcher, a 1-3-2-4, or a 1-3, and then a 4-leg parlay following it. Those kind of things are the way that you catch it and capitalize on what you think is a trend, but it's really a streak. Okay. This gives, by the way, people like me, people like most of you who are educated gamblers with some wisdom and experience, a decision-making framework. You don't have to guess. I think nines are rolling, right? If you're betting in a certain way and nines are rolling, you'll just catch the nines, right? Or the reds or the whatever that it is. So if you think about it from a tactical standpoint and don't get sucked into, I think this is going to keep happening, and just bet in a smart way on what's happening, you're going to catch the trend or rock the streak. And if you're a recreational player who thinks that all that's real, you have a framework around which to bet. Now, we're going to get into some of these streak betting patterns and really talk about framework betting. I think it's an important thing that a lot of new players don't really get. All right. So if you look at like game by game, the way that we view trends game by game is different. I think that some of them are more interesting than others, but they've all got a really cool bit to it. Okay. We can start with craps. Okay. If you're pressing numbers, and you have a pattern, like press, collect, or press, collect, whatever that pattern that you're following on your numbers is, you are riding the wave. You are catching a streak. You are following the trend. It's natural when you do that. But craps has this extra dimension to it, which we'll talk about here in the outlier section, which is dice throwing, right? The way that guys throw dice is different, and it makes craps one of the unique games, I think. We can group Baccarat and Blackjack together in one way here, but effectively, Baccarat is a trend game. People who play and bet Baccarat are looking for a trend. I call it streak betting, right? Runs of player, runs of banker, runs of chop, whatever that happens to be. Matter of fact, the casino gives you a scorecard and a pen. They give you a blank piece of paper and a pencil to write it down. They want you to write it down. Think about that. They want you to write down what you think is going to happen next. It's a trend-based game. It's a very superstitious kind of a game. Okay. However, like Blackjack, it's dealt from a shoe, and the shoe actually changes density as it goes, right? The more cards are dealt, the less cards that are left. If you're counting, there are more big cards or small cards left in the deck, which means a trend can form in those games. More so Blackjack than Baccarat, I think, but a trend can form in it's why card counting is a real thing, because when the density of the cards change, the randomness is not wild randomness anymore. It's scoped randomness. When you have a lot of big cards, most of the hands are going to fall into these small clusters of outcomes versus every possible thing. You run out of 2s and 3s, some of those 4-card hands aren't happening anymore, right? So in Blackjack and Baccarat, if you're smart and plugged in, you can say to yourself, I think, based on what's left in that deck, this is more likely to happen. It's still going to be random, but you're more likely to find yourself in some kind of a cluster. Okay. Again, just like in craps with the dice influencers. Okay. And here's the big outlier. A DI, I believe, can create a trend, or at the very least, a pocket. Okay. Pure shake and bake random. The dice have no idea what just happened. There's nothing you can do or bet on the next roll, especially when I roll 3 9s and 7 out, and the next person rolls 2 9s and 7s out, and the third person gets the dice, and somebody says, you know what, the 9s are hot. That's bullshit. However, if it's one person throwing the dice on a relatively not busy table because they get the dice fast again, that person, based on set, based on toss style, based on all the conditions, if they're locked in, they can create a pocket, a cluster of stuff, more insides, more outsides, more uptown, more downtown, whatever it's going to be that they're doing. What they do, in my view, I think the word, I gave this word the other night I was talking to a couple of people on the phone about this. The best word to use for them, I think, is tendency, right? On this table, on this day, with my toss, with those dice, my tendency today is a lot of uptown numbers. For whatever reason, today is my day as a DI. I'm getting uptown numbers. That's you can call it a trend if you want to. That's fine. I'll give you that leeway for a DI that's doing something like the stock market to cause momentum in a certain direction. Okay. That tendency, though, will change from day to day, from table to table, from time to time, right? There's forces around there that change that. So just because, so-and-so threw a bunch of uptown numbers in the morning session, in the evening session, they may just be on the inside because they're on table 3 instead of table 2, and it's bouncier and 5 inches longer, right? DIs, to use Duracell 8's vernacular, are trying to create variance, a very specific kind of variance. They're trying to create variance within some sort of a swim lane of numbers in the box, right? So because there's an engine behind it, I carve out this special case in the trend argument for DIs. Everything else in all the games, 100% random, with the exception of DIs throwing and becoming consistent, and shoe density towards the end of shoes in blackjack and Bach, where you start eliminating outcomes from being possible. That happens. Those are things that can predict stuff, right? Everything is still random within a spectrum. And I think that's truth, right? The trends don't change math. And I want you to think about this when you're having this conversation and when you're making fun of me later on, because you will. Consider this. I use the stocks example a lot, right? Stock market, because there is an engine behind that, right? But think about weather versus climate. Okay. Short term versus long term. You're getting rained on the weekend. It's a good idea to buy an umbrella, right? Or run to your car, right? You're getting punched in the face by the weather gods. Cover yourself up. Take care in the short term. If it's raining all day, it's probably going to keep freaking raining. It's a rainy weekend. You can predict that, right? That's the trend. That's the pocket. That's the pattern you feel in the moment. In the short term, at the table, that's what you're feeling. But you wouldn't spend a year's salary or more building a cave around your house to protect it from the rain, because that's climate. That's long. You're looking long term there, right? That's the trend bettors do this though. They do this craziness where they, put all this money out there on things that they think are going to happen later. You can't do that. That's the better analogy. Weather versus climate is the short-term trend of the table versus the long-term math. And that's, I think, where there is this kind of give and take, right? So my advice, play them smart. You want to call it a trend, call it a trend. Know that mathematically that's not really a thing. But you want to manage your exposure. Manage your exposure to that variance, right? Press when you have profit. If you're going to press from profit, not from your pocket. That's an important thing, right? Use their money or found money to protect what's yours, okay? And the best thing I think that a trend can give you, honestly, if you're going to look at this that way, is a structured reason to walk out a winner. Bet in a structured way that can capitalize when a streak forms. And that alerts you when it's not. If you're in a streak and you're done, right? Time to walk. That's the school bell ringing. Time, recess is over. kind of a thing. So just be aware, eyes open in the moment. And again, be careful of using those words. And I think you guys are all smart enough to know the difference between, I think, hopefully now, a trend, which has an engine behind it, and a streak, which is just natural randomness, making cool things happen for you. When you're talking to new players, don't use the wrong words, because they will start to think, all the sevens are happening, I should just start betting on that. Don't let a new player fall into the trap of thinking they can predict what's going to happen, because they can't. Nobody can. All right. So that's my thoughts on trends. I hope that tracks a little bit. I think that they feel very real, but they are fake news, and there are some gray areas. And that's just the way that it is. I'm sorry. You can't write things down and know what's going to happen. You just can't, right? Things do happen though. And I think if you're betting smart when things are happening, you can probably capitalize on it. I think that's a very important way to look at the world, right? I love this comment from 40 Craps, and I try to measure my words when I say these things. I hate to use the word house money, right? Profit money is your money. You earned it. You risked it. No such thing as house money. It's a great way to frame that part of the conversation. I think I'll say profits. I'll say use your profits, because what happens is you're not putting your own original money at risk, the money that came from your bank. If you can bet more heavy, if you're going to bet more heavy, don't bet heavier out of your pocket. Bet heavier out of your profit stack. If that's what you're going to take your chance with, that's the money to take your chance. That's like the stock market, right? The stock market, you make money because you're earning dividends and earnings on your wins as they compound. That's the same idea on the gambling floor. I give this analogy a lot. If you're if craps is the one game that's the weird one. Every other game pays you your money, right? But in craps, there's this kind of proclivity to press all the time. And I ask you this question, and this is a good question for the trend people. When you have a $25 nine and it hits, and maybe you collect the first one, so you have $35 in your rack, it hits again, and you press it to $50. That's a smart move, right? Smart move. Nine happened. You have a pattern that you're going to follow. Maybe it hits again, make some extra money. That's a great move. My question is, if you're standing at the table and you're watching the game, but you're not betting yet, and you see the second nine come, do you then go, the nines are coming. Here comes $50 out of my pocket to bet the nine, right? Would you make that decision? I've had my 9 and 5 up to $500 or more many times, right? Through progression betting. I would never walk up to a table and say to somebody, how many nines have happened? And they say, oh, we've had 13 nines so far. I'm like, fucking hey, man, here comes $1,000. Let's go for the 9. You'd never do that, right? Nobody watching this show would ever do that. But that's what trend betting is. People look at that and go, oh, that's happening. Here comes the money. You would never make that decision. And that's what I'm getting to. If you're in the moment and you're doing your thing, different argument. And I think I'm glad you brought that up, 40, because that's really an important thing, distinction there. Another thing, by the way, on craps, do I have time to talk? Yeah, some more time. Another thing on craps is this, and I as much as I don't like the overall teachings of Golden Touch, they do profess the come bet as the way. And I know that a lot of us hate come betting, mainly because we hate the guys who want you to come bet, right? The guys who want you to become bettors are assholes. All the math guys are a bunch of jerks. And they come at you like whatever. But really, if you think about it, especially if you're a DI, if you're working on your shot, the best way to quote unquote catch a trend, right? Or jump into a cluster or find a streak, whatever you want to call that, is come betting. Because come betting hunts down the hot numbers. If you're rolling a bunch of numbers in short order and repeating them, come betting will find them, right? Drop the come bet out there. If it's bad, you get paid. If it goes to a number and it hits, you get paid. If you're trending a number, if you're clustering a number, come betting will find it. And it gives you this way to kind of find it in a safe sort of way. whenever I'm throwing, most of the time I'm horseman. I'm working 3 come bets. I'm working a don't pass. And I'm going to find which side I'm throwing on today. I'm either going to make money on my short rolls or I'm going to make money on my long rolls, right? But I let the dice figure it out for me as I'm going. I think it's not the worst move to make if you're a DI. I think a lot of people go, I know what I'm doing with my numbers. Not the worst move. I think come betting really helps you when you're betting, when you're practicing your throws. Come betting really helps you find where your clusters are or where that pocket for you is today. No better way to find it than come betting versus guessing what you think you're throwing. Food for thought. Just put it out there. So, all right. Let's go here. I think there's some questions out there. Again, I'm not sure if both streams are going today, but it looks like only the horizontal is going. I just can't tell what's happening. Who's here? Randall says, isn't that what's happening at Ellis Island? I think you're referring to the chips and the dice, right? Ellis Island has this thing. If you haven't seen it, their craps table's different now. They have, at least one of them is, where they have these kind of lanes that come from like the dealers out to you. And all your bets are placed within this set of lines. And the table's got sensors in it, so it knows where your bets are. And the craps table can actually track each player's play. It's cool, but it's a weird table. It doesn't look like a regular craps table. It plays the same, of course, but it looks funny and it's got a different little vibe to it. But yes, Ellis Island's doing the AI thing for sure. All right, David Brock, good to see you again as well, sir. Skill says, as long as the comps are consistent, then it's fine. I like that comment. It's more accurate. And like I said, if you think you're a 25-hour player, but you're a regression bettor, you go from 25 to 10 on a blackjack table and you progress up from 10. In reality, over 3 hands, you're betting 25, 10, 15, and 20. You're not betting 25, 25, 25, 25. The boss will see the greens. The computer will see the reds. And your overall comp value comes down. Takes longer to earn that free room. So that's the one downside to its skill is that, yeah, it's more accurate and it's consistent, but you're going to see a reduction in comps, right? Georgia Girl said the facial recognition text is super high level. It's ridiculous how good the facial recognition is. They can flag you in that second. It's crazy. You've seen the chip action in Murphy. They track the amounts the dealer puts on the table. Really, I didn't know that. And I'm not surprised by it. Like I said, they can do it because the chips all have the RFIDs in them. They can check everything now. They can do whatever they want to, frankly. Louis says, whatever players call trending is variance clustering. I love that. Random outcomes bunching together. And again, if you can make it happen, God bless you, man. I think that's awesome. Yeah. And Mike's here. Good morning. Long time no see. Good to have you here, man. Yeah, some craps talk. I'll do other things too. We'll do craps. We'll do some baccarat. I'll start. I'm working on my dealing skills for blackjack and box, so I'll do some days where I actually, spin some cards out of a shoe and that kind of thing. So, yeah, the casinos love it. They love to see people control or try to control the uncontrollable. I'm still here, man. I think DI. I'm telling you, I have done it in terms of my practice sessions where you form clusters by what you're doing. I know that I can't predict the number. But I know that I can eliminate, or feels like in a short session, eliminate, 7 or 8 outliers. And if that's the case, you can form this instead of living in this. It does make it a little more scoped. But yeah, still random. So here's blackjack. Do they immediately return cards to the sick deck? So yes, in the continuous shuffle games they do. There's 3 kinds of blackjack, right? 3 kinds of games. You've got the hand shuffled game where the dealer shuffles the cards between the shoes, right? But that's good. That takes time, right? What that does is it reduces the hands per hour from probably 80 to about 65. So what they did is the first thing they did was they make these things called automatic shufflers. So they can take all the discard pile, put it into a hopper, it shuffles the cards and the shoes there. They have 2 shoes going. They have 1 shoe always being shuffled, 1 shoe they're playing from, right? When that shoe's done, they just load the next one, makes the game go nice and fast. In that case, you can still count cards, right? The third kind of blackjack is the continuous shuffler, where every probably deck or so, they'll deal the game out of the shoe, and about every this much, they'll take those and put them back in the hopper. And the hopper is always shuffling all the time. So what comes out of that thing is always a freshly shuffled. You're playing with essentially 7 random or 8 random decks all the time. So it's always full. That case, you cannot cluster anything. You cannot predict anything. There's no card counting. So that's, again, a reason or a way the casinos have made it impossible to card count. Those machines are expensive. They're also very unreliable. We have one here in Wenatchee, actually. That machine is always broke. They're always hand shuffling because, once a week that thing is working. The rest of the time they're all like, we hate this thing. And they're not cheap. And so a small casino really can't afford them, especially the maintenance on them. So you'll still see normal games for the time being. Yeah, Mike, I love the Horseman. And it's such a great way to jump into a game. It really is. It's very low key. On a 50 roller, you're going to be kind of treading water for the first 8 or 9 rolls. That's fine. You have 40 rolls to make money with. That's how I look at it anymore. I'm not going to press the gas out of my pocket anymore. I just don't. So, all right, guys. Lou has to go. I have to go. It's time for work. Can you believe that? Time for actual work. So, okay. There's a couple more things here before we jump out. And that is this. Leave with Lou's acronym. Focus. Follow your plan. Observe conditions. Identify these clusters, right? Control your emotions. Understand the game you're playing. And stay within discipline. Focus. Use the bridge. Stay in focus. Acronym sandwich. And I'll leave you with our inspirational quote of the week, which is this: an idiot admires complexity. A genius admires simplicity. Cannot say it any clearer than that. Over the course of 30 plus years of playing, most of you are in the same boat as me. Doing all the crazy complex stuff ends up hurting you in the long run. Keep it simple, stupid. Right? The smartest ones out there keep things as simple as possible. All right. Love y'all. God bless everybody. See you tomorrow, Friday. I think I have another Fact or Fiction tomorrow, and then next week we'll get started with some kind of ABC series. I'm not sure how it's going to play out just yet, but anyway, in the meantime, peace and love, everybody. Bye.